What's going on, button pushers? Welcome to the channel. My name is David, and today we are going to be editing your photos. On Instagram, I asked you guys for a few raw photos for me to edit for a YouTube video, and I have selected 8 out of the 60 that I was sent to edit. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is David. I'm a photographer and cinematographer, filmmaker, whatever you want to call it, and I make content for you guys, content creators in general, to improve your content and just entertain you guys with my own content. Today, we're going to be editing photos. I selected 8. Let's get started. So we're going to kind of break down what I'm going through in my mind and my process and what I choose colors for, kind of go through Lightroom itself and kind of how I see things, so you guys can kind of compare that to yourselves and just see how you can play with style, kind of. So I'm going to break down everything that I do when I edit a photo, and I'm going to show it on screen for you guys in Lightroom. So we have our screen recording and we have the camera. So actually, I don't want to start with this photo. I am a portrait photographer. I do a lot of portraits. I do not do as many landscapes as I would like to, mainly because I don't have many landscapes to capture. We're not actually going to start with portrait because I kind of want to see what I can do with this landscape. Now, this is actually a JPEG file, so the quality isn't going to be the same as editing a RAW file. It's going to be a lot harder. I'm going to have less control, but that's absolutely okay. So first of all, I'm going to start with the curves. I always start with the curves, and I love to bring the highlights and the whites down a little bit for that extra little fade. Now I bring these back up to bring back the highlights and make it a little bit brighter, but still hold that fade. Now if I want to make it a filmic look, I'm going to bring up the shadows and the blacks to kind of bring those filmic fades in. Now bring this back down to maintain those shadows, but it still looks completely different. So you can kind of see on the left side here, it's going to be a little bit darker, but on the right side, it's going to be a little bit more faded. So we have that filmic look already, just off of that. On top of that, I'm going to throw in about 30, no, I remember, it's a JPEG. So we're going to have to do a little bit less because it's a raw photo. So let's do about 20 grain. Normally I would do a 45 if I really want that filmic look, but usually I stay around 30 to 35. Now we have a little bit less control, so it's a JPEG, so I'm going to throw on about 35 sharpening just for that extra sharp kind of look. And then we're going to hop into the highlights. I'm going to bring these down so I can maintain some highlights in the sky, because the sky is blue here, but you can't really tell if I bring the highlights all the way up. It kind of just blows out the sky and brings a little bit less color to it, you know? So there's already a minimal amount of color, which is completely okay. I'm going to bring the textures up, but I'm going to bring the clarity down. That way we get like a softer feel, because I really love that filmic kind of look. And we're going to do the same thing with another photo that I already have an idea for. So then we're going to bring the vibrance up a little bit so we can bring a little bit of that color back in. And then we're going to bring down the saturation for kind of another still, again, faded look. And honestly, I feel like a green and orange picture would look a lot better here rather than like a cooler tone. So let's do a warm photo with a little bit of green in there just for like the kind of earthy, woodsy kind of look. And we're going to take the yellows and play around with it here. I'm going to bring down the saturation of the yellow a little bit because honestly, I hate yellow. As weird as it sounds, I hate yellow in photos because it kind of just makes everything look a little bit too brown, I guess. I don't know. So let's bring the shadows, give them a little bit more warmth to it, and then we're going to take a little bit of that turquoise kind of teal look. Maybe we're going to play around the slider. Maybe we're going to do pink. Let's do pink. From there, add a little bit of noise reduction because it is a JPEG, so we're going to get a little bit more noise. And then maybe just play around more with the lighting, you know? Just bring these shadows down so we get a darker look of the people, so we get kind of a silhouette of this character right here. And then we're going to take the blues, make it a little cyan, bring the luminance down so we get this darker look. But then we're going to bring up the saturation so it gets a little bit more blue. And we're going to do the same thing with the teal turquoise. We're going to play around with that and see how it looks. And yeah, so let's see the comparison. So this was the original here, and then this is the edit. Super slight edit, mainly because I do believe that this is an iPhone picture. So it is a JPEG. We have a little bit less control, so it can't really do too much. But as far as I've got it, I think it's a pretty good photo. Something that I would post on Instagram. So, cool. Awesome. First photo done. Thanks to Sunny Sue for submitting this photo. Let's jump over to this one. This one is submitted by Celine Diane. Let's start off with a crop. So we get out these edges, and let's keep her center frame. Enter. All right, so we have this dirty floor. I'm going to ignore the dirty floor. I'm not even going to touch the dirty floor. That is too much work. Let's stay in Lightroom. It's not too much work. I just don't want to do it. All right, so let's increase this texture so we get a little bit of texture from that skin and bring the clarity down so we kind of soften her skin. You can see that when I decrease the clarity, look right here at her arm or something right here. You can see the kind of textures in the skin, but when I slowly fade it away, it brightens up a little bit and kind of clears all of that blemish. So just a quick way to kind of do that. You can even take the textures down and bring it even more, and it makes her skin super, super, super soft. And honestly, I like that. So let's actually leave the texture down at a -5, and let's go back in here. Now, this is the photo I kind of also want to do a super, super filmic look in because I feel like it would look really good. So let's do a super, super fade. So let's take our curves and kind of just destroy them. Let's just crush, let's do that. Let's crush them and do that curve there. And we're going to take the grain and throw it up to a, this is also a JPEG, by the way, so less control. But let's put it at a 22. So you can see there's a lot of grain there. So with that, let's add some noise reduction and sharpen it a little bit. Not too much because, again, JPEG, less control. It's just going to crush and destroy everything if we overdo anything here at all. I'm going to take the yellows again, bring these down, play around with it. See, there's not much yellow in here to begin with. And you can see when I did this and with the texture and the clarity, you can see that the floor cleaned up a little bit. You can see that you can see less of the, dirt and the grime that's on the floor. So let's take this vibrance up, bring this down. Highlights, let's bring it up a little bit. Let's go for that, overexposed kind of look. Here, the shadows look fine. The blacks are really black, so I don't want to really touch the blacks anymore. Even with the fade, they're really black. Let's give her a warm tone. Maybe even, yeah, since it's a filmic look, let's kind of go for the green a little bit. And the green, a warm again, just same exact thing. Same exact thing. Let's take these shadows, make them a little orange, and then give her a kind of like a teal. So pay attention to the whites here. When I do the split tone in the highlights, you can see that the white is becoming a little more blue. So this is without any highlight split tone, and you can see that the whites now are slowly becoming kind of blue. So let's do like a 10 point there. Now let's look how the drastic difference is. So the original here on the left, and you get the filmic look here on the right. Super, super filmic, super kind of like, oh, this looks like it was shot on a film camera. You throw it into Afterlight on your phone, an app on your phone that allows you to throw filters over top, maybe put some like scratches or something. Definitely looks like it could be a film photo. All right. Now that we're done with those two, let's jump over to this one. Now this is a landscape kind of city shot. I like it, but let's straighten it out. So let's make it really tall and let's center it a little bit. So this could be like a phone wallpaper because it is more long than it is wide. And I don't think we can post this whole thing on Instagram while still capturing this person in it. So this one's very, very, very blue. Very blue. And that's absolutely okay. So to start with it, again, let's do our curves. Boom, bam. There we go. And I think this one has a little bit of vignette, so let's enable that profile corrections, and he was shooting on 18 to 55. So we get all that information because this is a raw photo. So the raw photo gives you all that information back. So let's add some noise reduction, of course, just in case, he was shooting at 100 ISO, but hey, blending a little bit of pixels never hurt anybody. Let's start grain at 35 because I love, love, love the grain. Let's take our blues, and now this is where we're going to have fun. So I'm going to desaturate the blues a little bit, just slightly, and bring the luminosity down. Maybe, hold on, let's see what this controls. This doesn't control too much. A lot of it's very, very blue. So let's use a temperature to kind of control what goes on here. Let's make this green so it kind of brings, not green, orange. Let's make this a little bit more warm so that it brings out more of the building from the sky, So it separates it a little bit more. Let's see what the highlights do. Highlight has this, core in the building right here. And shadows control the very, very front. Now, I don't want to boost those too much. Let's make it a little bit brighter. Bring up the vibrance and bring down the saturations a little bit. So it's a little bit harder. So you see the shadows are in the sky here, and the highlight is the building. So that means whatever I do here, let's make the highlights a little bit more orange. The building is going to turn a little bit more orange. Let's see what we can do and play with it a little bit and not change it too drastically. Let's leave it here in the yellow-orange kind of field. And for the shadows, let's keep it a little bit more blue. So we're gonna add a little bit of blue to the shadows. Now the problem with this photo, it's not a bad photo. Just when it comes to the editing, if I wanted to separate it, I'd have to use a brush or something, and completely fine, not a huge issue. But honestly, it's a little bit of extra work. So because everything in this photo is blue, and when I'm taking photos, I kind of try to stray away from making sure. I try to make sure that everything is not the same color. So it's really hard when someone has brown hair or like tan skin, brown hair, and the background is brown too, because everything is just brown. So when you try to play with color, it's really hard. But photo's fine. It's not the photo's fault. It's just, it's how the world works. You can still definitely do it. It's no issue at all. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's see what it looks like. Not a drastic difference. Nothing, it's kind of hard because again, yeah, it all blends in together. So when I change one thing, everything in the photo changes because everything is blue. So let's just leave it at that. We got a nice faded film blue grain look, a little bit of green in there with a small green tint. And yeah, let's just leave it at that. Let's move on to this one right here. Actually, no, this one. Let's do this one because I don't really do landscapes. So this one is actually going to be a challenge for me because I don't have much experience in editing landscapes. So again, let's do our fade. Let's bring up here the highlights so we can bring out the water. And we're going to actually leave our shadows and our blacks down here. But we're going to go up here, take the highlights down so we can bring and recover some of that sky back in. We're going to bring our shadows up because I really want this blue water to be, noticeable. And since it's a landscape, let's bring our textures up and bring our clarity. People love doing like a really sharp, high clarity look on like landscapes, but let's leave it at a -10. I like that kind of blended look. That soft look. Okay, so let's start off with our cyan. So the cyan's going to be in the water. Let's bump that saturation up as high as possible. Not as high as possible, but kind of high. And let's play around with the color. Let's make it kind of like a greenish blue look because you kind of get that feel. And then the sky is going to be blue as long as this, along with this part here, which is the reflection of the sky. So let's actually bring this down, this luminance down, and then play with around, make it a cyan, and desaturate. No, let's leave the saturation a little bit normal. I'm bring the yellows down, and you can see that yellow and green go together. So when I bring this yellow down, I kind of get that fade in the trees. So it brings down the color of the trees. And I'm going to bump the greens and desaturate them while bringing the luminance down. So we get kind of a faded look here. For the shadows, I'm going to throw in, let's make it a little warmer. Just very, very slightly warmer. And for the highlights, this is actually kind of tough. I don't know. I've never really edited landscapes. I think a cooler tone would be good for this one because it does look like a cooler photo because of the water and everything. I might bring back some of these greens actually. These greens were kind of necessary to bring some color to the photo other than blue. From there, I'm just going to add some sharpening, get some grain over top, and add some noise reduction. Because, again, noise reduction. I might actually bring some clarity back here. Not much drastic difference other than, it's brighter, it brings back more color. This one's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe I'll bring the shadow. No, I like the shadows high. I like that. I like the bright kind of feel. Tough one. This one was a challenge. Let's just bring the oranges down. That way we get kind of a white look in the mountains. I like that. Tough. I like it. I like it though. This one's fine. I like the way it is. We do what we can. Work with what we got. Let's jump over this one. Now this one again. Everything is a little bit orange, so let's actually take the white balance selector and select the tiles as white. So we kind of bring some of that white balance back, and we're gonna get like a super blue color. So let's make it a little bit warmer. Let's give it a little bit of pink to it. Now I feel like this edit is kind of like an edit that should be super bright and super, what's his name? Brandon Wolfley. because you got the lights going, and I don't like this black part here, so let's bring the crop up a little bit. Let's bring this down so we get that faded look. Make it super bright. And let's just leave it there. Let's not touch the rest of the curves. Let's not touch the blacks or the shadows. Let's bring the texture down. Let's bring the clarity down so we get kind of like a super, soft look. From there, let's bring the vibrance up and the saturations down. There's a lot of blue here. Like, it's a good blue, but at the same time, I feel like it isn't completely necessary. So for the shadows, let's do like a pink-ish kind of look. And for the highlights, let's do like a blue-ish kind of look, because blue and pink, perfect kind of combination when it comes down to it. Let's add some noise reduction because we are at 800 ISO in this photo. You can see your ISO, all this information because it's a raw photo, and this is shot at 120, so it's a little bit blurry. So we're gonna have to make sure we bring that sharpening up a little bit more, just in case, because to make up for that extra movement and whatnot. Can you guys hear that lawnmower? Yeah, there we go. Let's add some grain over the top, because I love my grain. And let's boost this up here, bring the shadows down a little bit. This is kind of a tough photo because there's a lot going on here. It's super bright, but then when it comes to the back, it is a little bit on the dark side. Let's bring some saturation back in here, actually. Maybe bring the vibrance up. Let's see what we've got so far. So this was the original photo, super orange and everything, and now we have this super cool photo. And I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I like it, but at the same time, there's just something that's missing, I feel like this is something that you're going to need to bring into Photoshop maybe and add a little bit more to it. Like a little bit more overlays and, After Effects and all that stuff. Maybe even like take a gradient tool and move it down here. Let's expand the gradient a little bit. Put it over here and bump that exposure up very high. Give it like let's try to copy this color here. What is it? Like a red? I don't know. Bump that exposure, make it super warm. Maybe, hold on, I think I have to turn it. Yeah. Give it like a light leak or something, Let's bring this in a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Okay, I mean, this is also a tough photo because it's very orange, and I think it lost a lot of detail because of the differences in the background and how the back was very, very dark, and you can only retain so much data when it comes down to a situation like that. Especially even if it's a raw photo, you can't like bump highlights all the way because then it gets super grainy. Like if I were to take my exposure and bump it all the way up, you can see it starts getting super grainy back here, and it doesn't look so good. But if you're, doing it for Instagram stuff, it should be okay. There's no issue with it really. But if you're trying to print it out and whatnot, it makes it a lot harder. So we're already at 19 minutes. So let's hurry up and get these photos done. All right, so now we have a concert photo. Now, there's a little bit of context. Usually when I take concert photos, I really like the ones with all the lights in the background, the rays and stuff, because it adds a lot of context. There's a lot of potential flares and whatnot. So, okay, let's do a black and white one. I don't do a lot of black and white photos, so let's do a black and white photo. Let's completely cut out the blue. Goodbye, blue. So now we're working with zero color. So you really have to pay attention to the light. You really got to pay attention to all this going on here. And since we have some of these flares going on here, you can see the star filter. Excuse me. We can kind of just mess around with it. And even when you don't have color in your photo, messing with the temperatures and all the colors are still going to change a few things. So I know we have cyans and blues in here, so let's work with the blue shifter. let's give it like a tint. We're gonna do like a very slight. Where were we? I'm gonna give it a slight bluish tint, just to add a little bit of color back to that black and white and make it kind of seem, a little bit more colorful in a way. Because I see you get this light, this very subtle teal look, and it just makes for something cool, you know. So let's add some sharpening. This was shot at 250 ISO, so let's throw in like 15 noise reduction, and on top of that, let's throw like 30. Holy wow! Look at how much grain it can contain. Let's put it like a 35. Very subtle. Add a little bit of texture, but at the same time, not overdo it. From there, honestly, I think it's a good photo. I think that's it. I think that's it for this photo. So you can see, because like when you look at the original photo, you see that there's a little bit of like purple in the skin and whatnot, but when you remove all that color doesn't matter. So we're getting this black and white photo with a little bit of color thrown over top in the shadows, and it just looks cool in general. And you can actually see a lot more of that filter, that star filter, and how the highlights roll off of the skin, and the flares, because you're paying attention to those because you don't know about the color. You don't care about the color when you're looking at a black and white photo. It's all about kind of the message and what's going on. Let's jump to this photo right here, submitted by Jason Kim. All right, let's see what we can do. So there's a lot of funky stuff going on in this photo. There's a lot of color, blue, pinks, great combo. But at the same time, when you're working with a lot of colors at once and you're trying to do this all in Lightroom rather than Photoshop, it's going to be a little hard. So again, let's start with our curves and let's just really crush those blacks there. Let's bring the textures and clarity down for a softer feel, because this is a hotline bling look. So I feel like very filmic, very kind of soft feel would be a perfect edit for this photo. I believe this one is a JPEG too. So yes, this is also a JPEG. Lots of JPEGs submitted. Let's do some blue shadows and some pink highlights. So that way we get more of that exaggerated blue and pink look. And then let's bring our shadows down, because yes, I really want to crush those blacks and bring the highlights up very, very slightly, so you can get kind of like a faded look here, so you're kind of destroying the face so it's bright. Really pay attention to this and the eyes. I'm really bringing out the eyes and drawing attention away from anything else, so you can kind of see the background, the pink half, the blue half, the shadow here, and it really brings out the eyes right there. Now, I think I might do a brush here actually. So we're going to take our brush, highlight these eyes right here. So it's a little pink right now. Let's bring it over to the green and the blue so that we can kind of neutralize the colors. Bring the highlights up a little bit so we can kind of bring the eyes out a little bit more and kind of separate them from everything else, so you can kind of see that more. So let's actually crop it a little bit too. So we're gonna bring it so it's only in the hotline bling side, so that way you can actually see the whole frame and nothing like stops. It's just the whole thing, and it kind of brings out the eyes a little bit more when you're kind of looking at it. So when you look straight into the photo, boom, first thing you see is those eyes and that beautiful background. And honestly, I think that's it. I don't really want to touch the photo too much more. Super simple edit, kind of, because when you took those textures and that clarity down, throw that grain on top, you're really smoothing out that texture of that skin once again, while throwing texture on top using the grain. And people are like, wow, I really love the way film looks because of that grainy texture, and it just softens everything out. So let's move on to the last photo. I think this is a good photo. And this one was submitted by Paulo Martinez. So we have a portrait once again. Let's first crop out that horizon line. So a lot of times when you're cropping a photo, you don't know which lines to line up with. So always try to match up with a horizon line. If you're trying to do a vertical line, whichever one is closest is usually the one that I like to line up with, and it looks straight. So usually I like to take the yellows out of photos. I mentioned that earlier, but here's the thing. This model has yellow hair, so when I take the yellows out of the photo, some of her hair just turns white. So I'm going to decrease it a little bit while moving it over to the orange side rather than the green side. That way we're going to retain a little bit of color while still getting rid of some of that yellow. So you get a faded skin kind of look, and I'm actually going to bring the oranges down a little bit for a little bit more fade in the orange color. But at the same time, I'm going to take our blues, saturate them a little bit, move them a little bit more to the cyan side, bring down the luminance so we can kind of separate the background from the character. And her thing here, it looks like a navy blue. Yep, navy blue, but it's probably going to be controlled by the purples. So the purples are going to be controlling that, and I'm going to make it look a little bit more royal blue. Bring the color up a little bit, the luminance, so that you can see a little bit more brightness to it. And we're going to bring the textures down along with the clarity so I can kind of smoothen her face out. Just a quick way to airbrush things out. Bring up the vibrance and bring down the saturations. Now the highlights are kind of blowing her face out because right here and the hair and everything. So I'm going to bring the highlights down, bring the shadows down a little bit too, so we can get kind of like a very, you know, separated, contrasty look. But at the same time, I kind of want to do like a golden hour feel, you know. So what I might do here is bring this to the orange side. Let's see what we can do here. We literally just took a photo, made it golden hour. Now I need to try to bring back these blues. That's the issue here when it comes down to color like this. So let's see what we can do with the shadows. We're going to make the shadows blue, and we're going to make the highlights orange. A very slight tint of orange, not too much. We're going to make these shadows blue again. So you can see we're bringing back those blues in the water, and we're going to bring this temperature back down to a little bit warmer. Now it looks a little bit like all over the place, so I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Maybe move it over to here. We're going to go back to the oranges, and we're just going to play around with the oranges and see where it takes me. Yeah, something like that. And then again, we're gonna, since it is an actual raw photo, we have a lot more control. Let's throw some noise reduction, even though the ISO is on 50, just for the extra smoothing. You got a few blemishes, but that's definitely okay. Beauty in naturalness is amazing. Of course, throw some grain on top to distract from any blemishes, anything, you know, that people don't like to see for some reason, even though you're beautiful the way you are. And we're gonna add a little bit of fade in the shadows and bring up the exposure very slightly. So let's look at the original. This is the original here. Now actually the after is a little bit too bright, so I'm going to bring down the brightness. So this is the original. You get kind of a flatter look. Here I brought back some color. I feel like it's a little bit too much color actually, so I'm going to bring the saturation down very slightly, and we're going to mess with the blues more. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more blue in the photo. So let's see what we can do here. Let's bring this blues up back in the shadows. Let's make it cyan actually, so we get that faded look. And let's bring some orange into the highlights just for that filmic look, feel. And throw a little bit more grain on top, and bang, bang, bada boom, bada bang. We've got it. Maybe put some more green in here. Yeah, perfect. I like the way this looks. I love the filmic look altogether. So you've noticed that most of my photos here I have a filmic look. These two are probably the ones that you notice it the least, because this one is super bright, and then this one is just, there's a lot going on. I had to brighten everything. Did I even add green on this? I actually don't remember. Yeah, I did, but not too much. Maybe if we added like a ton of grain, it looks like a photo from like 1955 or something. Anyways, yeah. I think it was fun editing you guys' photos. It took me, 30 minutes, but absolutely fun editing your photos. I love going through the process with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Comment down below. Should I do another one of these? Did you guys enjoy watching me edit your photos and kind of seeing how I edit my photos, how I go through it, my kind of process, why I do specific things compared to other things? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if there's any video that you guys want me to do. I'm definitely down for ideas, especially at a time like this when I don't have content to post. I don't have B-roll to post. It's really good to kind of catch up with you guys and see what you guys like to see. Anyways, have an amazing day, morning, night, wherever you're watching from. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. I love making new friends, and subscribing to me would support me in any way, and I appreciate everybody so much. If you guys want to watch me stream, play games, have fun, chat with me real time, check out my Twitch channel. Everything is going to be linked in the description below. Sorry, my camera hit the 30-minute mark. Check out my links below. Everything is there for you, and I love making new friends, so please, let's be friends. Have an amazing... So stay safe out there, guys. Keep pushing buttons, and I'll see you next time. Peace.